Hi, welcome to Tackle Your Tasks with Technology, Get More Out of Your Tech. I am Sarah Miller, and in today's session, you will hopefully take away strategies for using tech tools to help with managing it all, and a list of must-have tech tools, a comparison chart of screencast tools, and hopefully you'll learn some shortcuts and hacks in your Google Apps, and how to create some time-saving Google Forms that will help with your observation notes, and then I've got a couple of other tricks for you. Um, but I also want to give a disclaimer first thing that mostly all of my tools are going to be integrated with Google. So if your district is not a Google Apps for Education district, if you're Microsoft, then you may not get as much out of this session. So I just want to go ahead and let you know up front that this is mostly going to be with Google stuff. Now, a lot of the features you can still access with like a personal Google account. So even if you're Microsoft and you're still interested, feel free to stay and join us. But I do want to let you know that it's going to be mostly Google stuff. So a little bit about me. I am 6 years in education. I have my master's in instructional technology. So the last 2 years I have been leading professional learning with technology in grades. I've worked with grades K through 12, but mostly K through 8. And for my personal life, I'm a dog mom and I'm a reader of historical fiction. I love it. And I'm also living on a sailboat. My husband and I are taking some time off. So we are going to travel on our sailboat to the Bahamas for about 6 months. So we are really excited about that. And we've got a picture here. Our little dog's coming with us too. So moving on, the first thing that I want to talk to you about is Google Tasks. I feel like Google Tasks is one of the most underused tools that Google has. I absolutely love Google Tasks. In my 2 years that I was doing instructional technology coaching, I feel like Google Tasks really saved me big time. So what's nice about it is that it's integrated. It's an integrated to-do list that lives within your Gmail, your Google Calendar, and it also has a Tasks mobile app that they just rolled out with last year, and that makes things a lot easier. So what you can do basically is you can set reminders for dates, you can add notes, details, you can even make recurring tasks, you can create it from an email, and if you use the app, it'll send you a notification about which tasks you have due for today. So what I really like about it is you can do it directly inside Calendar, so that lives everywhere. So if you're traveling around, you can access your Google Calendar anywhere, and these tasks are really going to help. So I'm going to take a second to show you what tasks look like and how you can create them. And then I also want to remind you that you have your session handouts. So everything that I'm going to show you today also is going to be step by step in those handouts. So I'm going to do everything with the video, or most things with the video, and then you can also refer back to them in those session handouts for you. So hold on a second. I'm going to switch over to the Google Tasks screen and show you how to get that done. To create your Google Tasks, you'll open up your Google Calendar, and if I want to make a task for today, I would click on the date and click task, and I would go ahead and type in whatever you want your title to be. And what I really like about Google Tasks is if I realize today that I'm not going to get this finished and I want to move it to tomorrow, all I have to do is click and drag, just like you would click and drag an event in Google Calendar. So that's one thing that I really like about it. So you can access it here, but you can also access it in the sidebar where it says tasks. This little icon also lives inside your Gmail account. So you can access it here with Calendar or with Gmail. And this is the one that I have before, but I can also add them here. If I add it here, then it doesn't put a date on it, so it doesn't show up in the calendar. You can add the date here, but to me it's quicker if you just click it in the event or in the date that you're working with. So I can click them as done here, mark as complete, or I could click here, mark as complete. You can also create a task directly from an email. So I'm going to switch over to an email screen, and let's say that I get this email, we've got content team meetings next week in the conference room, and these are all the things that I need to bring. So I don't want to have to type or copy and paste all of that. So if you go to your three dots up here, we can do add to tasks, and my tasks sidebar will show up here, and see it has this attachment. So what I can do is I can add a date. So let's say if the meeting is on the 24th, I want to have this task on the 19th so I can have time to prepare all of this stuff that I need to bring. So I can hit OK, and now it's added. So when I go back to my calendar and refresh, it's sitting here on the 19th. So when I click here on this, view related email, and it'll bring me back to this email. So this is really good to keep yourself organized. So that's Google Tasks. So next I want to talk to you about a couple of tricks in Gmail and in Google Calendar. Last year, Google did a lot of updates in Gmail especially, so they have added a send later feature, which is really nice. I was using Boomerang add-on before, but now we don't need that. We can just use Gmail send later. They have a snooze option. And also I set mine to have unread messages at the top of the inbox just so, I mean, I know you guys know like 2 hours can go by and you get like 50,000 emails. And so now they're all scattered all around. So I like to have my unread messages at the top so that I can keep them all together. And in Google Calendar, I want to show you, there's a way that you can customize your calendar view to be a 2-week view. And this was game changer for me because I have so many things in my Google Calendar that if I'm in the month view, you have that little like 6 more or whatever at the bottom. You have to click it and open it up. And the daily view and the weekly view was just too hectic, but I think you're really going to like the 2-week view. So I'm going to show you that. And I also want to show you how to, or I guess give you some perks of sharing your calendar. This is really helpful if you have some people that you're meeting with frequently. And it's also, it may be a good idea to share your calendar with your administrators in your building. I shared my calendar with my curriculum director because we met together frequently, and I had my calendar shared with my principal because I was housed at one school even though I traveled to 5 or 6, but I shared my calendar with them so they would know like if I'm on campus or not. And then I also shared my calendar with our media specialist just because our offices were next to each other. So if someone were to come look for me, she was able to access my calendar and say, hey, she's at a different school today, she won't be back. Or she's got a meeting, but she'll be back in a few hours. So some perks of sharing your calendar and how easy it is to schedule meetings once you have those calendars shared. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So first, we're going to go through Gmail. I just want to make sure you know where the send later feature is, the snooze button, and how to get your unread messages at the top. So we're going to do that first, and then I'll do Google Calendar for you. So I am currently in my Gmail account, and I want to show you a couple things. So these are new updates. So if you haven't discovered them, I think they're going to make a huge difference in your productivity. So the first thing that I want to show you is send later. So if I do compose like I normally would, so I'm creating an email, and now we have a schedule send option. So there's this little drop down arrow. So schedule send, I've got to put in a recipient. Okay, we'll just send it to myself, demo email. Okay, so now schedule send, and it does these predictions for you, but you can also just pick a date and time. I'm just gonna do this first one. So now it's gone away and I can see them over here in scheduled. So this is really nice because you don't have to, like you can do batch email. So what I use this especially for, I was in charge of our systems, science fair, tech fair, and then my school's Young Georgia Authors thing. So all of those things require me to send out lots of reminder emails. So what I would do when I had, 15 minutes of spare time, I would go ahead and schedule all of those reminder emails at once. So I would schedule them, if I'm doing the science fair, those were due like in January. So I would start in October. So sometime in October, I would sit down and schedule all of those reminder emails all the way up through January into February. Now, what I would recommend is, of course, since I scheduled it in October, when somebody responds to them, because it doesn't send you a notification when it gets sent out. So my problem is I would forget that it was sent out. So what I did was I put a Google task in my calendar to remind myself, hey, I scheduled an email for Young Georgia Authors today, because sometimes they, teachers would respond saying, okay, got it, great, or sorry, I can't do it this week. And of course I had no idea what they were talking about because I scheduled it 3 months ago. So integrate these tools together. So use that send later feature, use your tasks, or an event in Google Calendar to keep yourself together. So you can do it all at once when you have some time to think about it, and then you don't have to. Like, it's amazing the weight that it'll take off when you don't have to think about sending all those reminder emails at the right time, because you want it to be most effective. So I know that you've got some tips and tricks on how to send them at the right time. Like, you don't want to send an email to them Friday at 3:30, but Fridays after school is when I did a lot of my work because nobody was there, and you can get so much done. So anyways, that's your send later. Another thing that I think you're really going to like is the snooze option. This is probably my favorite because, as you know, as an IC, you are pulled in 1,000 different directions, and so your brain sometimes just can't handle things. So this content team meeting. So let's say I know that this content team meeting is something for next week, and right now my brain can't handle it. So let's say it's like Monday morning at 8:30, and I know this meeting isn't until next Tuesday. I just need a minute. So what I can do is I can hit snooze, and I can have it come back to me in these predicted times. So if I hit tomorrow at 8 a.m., this is going to disappear from my inbox. Watch, this is great. Bam, it's gone. So now it's out of sight, out of mind until tomorrow at 8 a.m. when hopefully my brain can handle it a little bit better than today when I got it. So that's snooze. That's really, really good to help keep you on track. And to me, it just makes it a lot easier. It doesn't clog up your inbox. You can have it go away for a minute. So keeping your inbox organized, if you notice that I have mine set up where I have all of my unread at the top, and then I have everything else on the bottom. So I had a real problem with my stuff getting lost down in the bottom. And I hate not responding to emails. Like, I really do feel guilty about that. So I don't ever want someone to email me and then 2 weeks go by and they don't hear anything. Of course, if that happens, it's a total mistake and an accident. But I have less of those accidents now when I have my unread come straight to the top. So this is just a really easy setting. You'll go to your settings gear, and I have all of these steps in the session handout. So don't feel like you've got to do this right here. If you go to settings and then you go to inbox and you just click this drop down unread first and save changes at the bottom. So that's just a couple of clicks, but again, they're in your session handout. So I just want to show you how quick it was. And that'll do this. Now you can also choose how many unreads you have at the top. So here there's really 11 messages, but it's only showing 1 through 10. So just be aware of that too. Like, I haven't gone through and cleaned these out. A lot of these are junk. So anyways, that's your tips and tricks for your Gmail updates. So next, I want to talk to you about some Google Calendar updates. So here I am in my Google Calendar, and I just want to show you the difference between the month view and a custom 2-week view. So this really bothered me. And of course, during the school year, I know that your calendar looks super crazy. Mine, this is just a demo. So here, see how it has that 3 more? That really bothered me because, of course, like, if you're like me, like, all of these are going to have 3 more, 6 more, 7 more, 5 more, whatever. Especially if you're using tasks in there with it, like, that takes up a lot of space. So what I like to do is up here, you can do a custom where it's a 2-week view. So I don't have it here because I haven't set it up, but I want to show you how to set up the 2-week view. You'll go to settings here, and you're going to do view, where is it? View options. And we're going to do custom view, and we're going to change that custom view to 2 weeks. And settings saved. So now when we go back, I can go here and go to 2 weeks, and look at how pretty that is. This to me was a game changer because now I can look at my calendar and not be stressed out because I can see everything. I don't have to click anything. So now there's no more options, and it's, to me, a lot easier to read than the weekly view or the daily view. Oh, my battery's low. So that's the 2-week view. So another thing that I want to talk to you about is sharing your calendar. So I mentioned before some of the perks when you share your calendar. It just makes scheduling a lot easier. So you also have a new update with Google Calendar where you can meet with people. So I'm not really sure what this is going to pull up, so we'll see. So this basically pulls up your other, if someone has shared their calendar with you. So I've just shared this with myself. So this is like my personal one. So my personal calendar, I've shared it with myself, but let's pretend like this is your principal or whoever you meet with often. It pulls up their calendar so you can schedule things a little bit easier. So you don't have to go down and click click down here, I can just make that go away so it doesn't clutter things up, because I know that can stress a lot of us out to have something super cluttered. So the meet with option is there. You can also use this feature before the update. We would use this feature in a find time with. So let's see, we'll just do this meeting and we'll do more options. And when we invite, there's a find a time. And so if I were to invite the guest, it would do that here as well. And so it would show which times we both had available. So to me, the new update is a lot easier than the old way to do it. Like, it's much easier to go here than it was before. So that's a new update that I'm pretty excited about. So we'll go back to the presentation and move on to our next thing. So I've got a couple of tips for you for using docs, slides, and sheets. So this I'm going to keep super duper simple, but I do want to share with you Alice Keeler's extension called Anyone with the Link Can View. Alice Keeler is fantastic, and she's got a whole lot of extensions for us, and Anyone with the Link Can View. So what that does is, if you are sharing some resources to really anyone, instead of going through the trouble of clicking share and all of that, you can just click on her button one time. It'll automatically change that share setting to Anyone with the Link Can View, and it'll copy that link to your clipboard so you can just paste it to wherever you're trying to put it. The next thing that I want to share with you is called the Activity Dashboard. This is sort of nestled in your tools on docs, slides, and sheets. And what this does is it keeps track of who is viewing. So I've got a picture of it here. So if you have shared that Google Doc or slide or sheets or whatever, if you've shared it with a group of people or a team of teachers, and you want to see who's opened it and when they've opened it, all you have to do is click on the Activity Dashboard. So you can see in this picture, like, I've opened it within the hour. The person I shared it with opened it on June 10th. So I can see when they viewed it, and I've cut it off here, but you can also send them an email, you know, like, hey, don't forget to check out our team spreadsheet that we shared. So those are a couple of things that I think are really going to help your productivity in docs, slides, and sheets. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the Alice Keeler extension, and I'll go ahead and show you the activity dashboard too. So I'm going to switch my screen and show that to you. So Alice Keeler, if you haven't followed her before, you definitely should check her out. She is a total guru in the world of instructional technology, especially when it comes to Google Apps. So she created this extension, which is one of my absolute favorites, called Anyone with the Link Can View. So I've already added it here. But what's nice about it is that it will automatically change the share settings of whichever Google Doc you're working in to Anyone with the Link Can View. And then it'll automatically also copy that link to your clipboard so that you can paste it somewhere else. So all I have to do now that I've already got this extension added, so I open up a doc and I click the extension, and see this window pops up, permission change to Anyone Can View. And then I can come over here and paste it, and it'll be that same link. So it just copies that share link. So this makes things so quick, as in when you're creating resources to share with others, you can just click that button instead of going through clicking, 3 or 4 times to share it that way. The other thing that I want to show you is that you can take advantage of the activity dashboard. So this is an example of a digital tech talk that we had to do one time. This was for April, so testing was happening and teachers were super stressed. So instead of doing a face-to-face PL, we decided to just send them this little newsletter type thing, and they can do this on their own. But then where's the accountability? So of course it doesn't show on this one because I've just made a copy, but when I shared this with the assistant principal there, they were able to use that activity dashboard to see who actually opened this document to see for the accountability. So if I go to Tools, and Activity Dashboard is down here at the bottom, and we can see viewers. So I shared this with myself and, well, really myself twice. So you can see that I have viewed it within the hour, but these two have not viewed it at all. So you can see who's opened it here, and you can also email them, like, hey, don't forget to check this out, whatever. So this is really nice if you are not able to be on campus all the time. If you are just sending things out and you're just kind of hoping that people are going to open them, now you can actually see and you can email them directly. So that is a huge perk here. The next thing that I want to talk to you about is a mileage tracker. So if you are like me and you're traveling between schools, I know a lot of instructional coaches are housed at one school, but they serve teachers at different schools. That was the case for me. I traveled to 5 or 6 different schools over the last couple years. And for taxes, my husband was always on me about recording my mileage. So I needed to find a way that was easy for me to remember to do it, because who has time? Like, we're super duper busy. So I created a Google form that I then added to my home screen on my iPhone. So what I would do is I had the Google form as preset as I could possibly make it. So of course, the less clicking around, less I have to type in, the faster it's going to be, and the more likely I'm going to actually use it. So what I would do is I would actually fill this out in my car. So I would either before I left my home school or as soon as I got to my other school, I would sit in the parking lot and go ahead and fill this out. And then I don't have to worry about it. And my husband was happier at tax season when we had to turn all that stuff in. So let me switch my screen and I'll show you the sample. So the link here goes to a sample. So you can just take that and use it, a forced copy. So that is yours to have, and just customize it to make it fit you. So I'm going to switch my screen and show you what that looks like on my phone, and what it looks like when you're exporting the data. So here is the mileage tracker sample. So this is one that I'm linking, that link goes to. So in your session handouts, you can have this exact same one. Of course, you could also make your own and make it work for you. This is the one that I used. And like I said, I would track my miles literally in the parking lot, either before I went into the school that I was visiting or right before I went to my home school. So I did this in the car every time, of course, while I was parked. So what I did was I added this to my home screen. So I'll show you what that looks like in a second. But here's the sample. So basically I have to put in, let me hit the preview here. I have to put in the date, the reason for travel, and I just had these 3 simple things. And because you're going to be in a hurry when you're doing this, you want to make sure you have as many multiple choices as you can. So what I did, because I didn't want to have to look up each time, like location A, I would have the number of miles round trip, so that when I'm doing my odometer, especially because I did this sometimes like before I got all the way back. So let's say I'm going from my middle school to an elementary school. Before I left the middle school, I might go ahead and fill this in. So I would just do my odometer reading from where I was sitting then, and then just added 37 or whatever the round trip was. And I just separated them by a comma. So that way, when you open your sheets at the end of the year, you can just separate those numbers and you can calculate it there for you. But I've got some samples that I'll show you. So here's what it looks like on my phone. Let's see if I can pull it up here. Okay, so I just added it to my home screen here. So to get it to your home screen, you just need to open the Google form on your iPhone and then click add to home screen at the bottom. So when I open this, it has my login already. Now, every now and then it'll somehow log you out and you have to log back in, but usually that doesn't happen. So I just click in here and do 06, 03 or whatever the date is, a training I'm hosting, and see how I have all of these already put in there. So if I'm going to, let's say I'm going to WPS, I would just, when I'm doing my odometer reading, I would just go ahead and add 29 miles to it. So I would type the number in there, separate it with a comma, hit submit, and that's it. That's all you have to do. So it literally just takes a couple, maybe like 30 seconds, and you're done. So let me switch some screens around, and I'm going to show you what the Google Sheet looks like when you're finished, when it has the data all together. Here is my responses from last school year. So of course for taxes, we have 2 separate years here, so I haven't split the data, but basically this is directly from the Google Form. So I have done very minimal to this sheet. So in Google Forms, when you click on responses at the very top, it has the little Google Sheet icon. You just click on that and this will automatically populate for you. So when we put it in by commas, you can separate the data here, which is why I recommend putting it in with a comma so it knows it can automatically detect. So for me, all I'll have to do at the end of this year for taxes is highlight these, and I can do data, split text to column, and it'll automatically split those, so that way I can add, or I would subtract these and then add those numbers. So I'll show you what that looks like here. So up here, I went ahead and split them. And this column here is the difference. So if you see this, the function here is G9 minus F9. So that's this less this, which will give you these numbers. And so then all I've done is, so that's the number of miles traveled. And so then here I've just added all of those up. So it takes no time at all, and it's very, very organized. And all of this I did from my phone in the parking lot while I was traveling. So this is super duper simple. So you'll have, in the session handouts, you'll get the link to the sample, so that way you can just use that one. You can edit, it'll force you to copy it, so you can edit all of those if you want. You can add it to your home screen to make it super easy. But I'll also have directions on how to do this split text. If you use a comma, it's going to be super simple, just a couple clicks, and you'll be ready to go. Okay, the Scannable app is one that I have used. This is probably like if someone were to ask me, what's your go-to app? This would be it, because I had to use it all the time. So the Scannable app is only for iPhones, but there are some similar versions for Android users, so I'm not going to leave you guys out. I'll have those in the session handouts. I'll try to gather those up. So the Scannable app uses your phone's camera to scan images into PDF files. And then you can send it directly to your Google Drive or in an email to someone. So I use this every single time I led PL. I had the sign-in sheet and I had my handouts for the PL, because I know principals need all of that information, especially for the TEKS at the end of the year, professional learning. So I wanted to be able to leave them the paper copies, but I still needed a digital copy myself, and I don't want to bother the secretaries to make a copy for me because I'm going to different schools. So what I did is I just used my app. So I would just lay out all of my handouts on the paper, scan them all on my phone, which is basically you're just taking a picture of them. You can name it and select the folder in the drive of where you want it to save. So Scannable app is super helpful. So I'm going to show you what it looks like. I'll share my phone screen and we'll do some pretend sign-in sheets. It's summer, so we're having to pretend, so don't judge my handout. Okay. So I have my phone up here on the screen for you. So I want to show you the Scannable app. So this has been super duper helpful for me. So here's how it works. Once I click on it, it just has the camera. So we're going to pretend here. We're all about pretending, right? So we're going to pretend like this is our sign-in sheet, and we're going to pretend that these are our handouts for whatever PL we were doing. So now I've got my two, so I click the check button. And so down here, you have the option to change it from PDF or to an image. Now, I have to warn you, sometimes this, for some reason, defaults itself to image. Of course, you want it to be PDF, so just make sure that this says PDF. And if you click on Scannable Document here, that's the title. So I can go ahead and title it, let's say, NES sign in for, oops, oh my gosh, 6/3/19, done, and that's the title. So now I can hit, you have send and save. So save will go to your Evernote account, but send, you can send it directly to your drive here. And so now I can select my folder from here if I needed to. And so I can go ahead and save it where I need to save it directly to my phone in just a few simple clicks. So we'll just go ahead and do that. We'll say save here. And then you have to click this upload button and ta-da, you're done. That's all you have to do. So now you've got that PDF in your drive just like that. You can also, you saw the other options, you could send it directly from email. You can save it to your Evernote and deal with it later. So this is, I use this app every time I did professional learning so that I could have that and I would give the paper copy to the principals. So that's super helpful. Now, so observation forms. I know for me, it was really hard to find time to type up everything that I was observing. And what I didn't want to do, like when I was doing classroom observation, I really wanted to be engaged. I didn't want to be like sitting in the corner typing away. I wanted to be engaged with the teacher and engaged with the students. And the more the more that you're typing and you're focused somewhere else, you're missing something. So I needed an observation form that I could fill out quickly. So, but then I wanted it to be like, I don't need a Google Sheet when I'm sharing this information or when I'm housing this information. So I created a Google form so that I could input all of the information. And then I used an add-on called Form Publisher. So this is an add-on inside Google Forms. The Form Publisher will automatically take all of the information that you put into your Google form and set it into a Google Doc that you've already set. So what you do is you create a Google Doc here. You're going to create your Google Doc, put all of your placeholders in it, all of your little tables, your fancy pictures and your fancy fonts. You're going to get that set. And then you only do that one time. And then you input this information in your Google form and it'll automatically set it all out in that Google Doc nice and pretty for you. So I'm giving you a link to a sample. So I've got a sample instructional coach observation form. So of course you make it work for you if you're going to use it. I've got directions in the handout step by step, but I'm going to take you through the Form Publisher here. So when I switch my screen, I'll show you what the Google Doc looks like, what the template looks like, what a finished version looks like, and how to set it all up. So give me a second and we'll go ahead and go through that. Okay, so here we are with your observation form. So I've completed some samples for you just to make this process a little bit easier. And this one has a little more steps than we've done so far. So I just want to remind you again, all of these steps are in the session handout. So I'm going to walk you through it here, but if you get lost or confused, don't stress about it because you'll have everything step by step in that handout. So just feel free to kick back and watch to see this. So first, you need to have an observation form, like the Google form, so where you're going to input your data here. And again, the whole point of this is to make it quick and efficient. So the less that you're going to have to type, the better, because obviously that's longer. So if you are coaching a certain group of teachers, then you can go ahead and put their names in there so you don't have to type anything. And again, this is just a sample. So this is similar to the one that I have used in the past. And again, I just set this up on my phone home screen, and a lot of this I just did directly from my phone. And it organized it for you. So here's the Google form. So I want to show you this first. So we've got the date, we have the teacher's name, which class period was observed, the focus topic, what we're looking for, and then I basically have just some notes and goals here. So this is what a completed version looks like. Now again, this is just a sample, so you can customize this however you want. So this started as a totally blank Google Doc. I put all of this in, I set this up. So I added this image. So again, think about having your school header there or whatever you want to do. This is totally flexible. So what you have to do is just make sure that you have all of the fields here covered in your document. So you want to make sure that they've got a place to go. So basically what will happen is you'll fill out that form. When you hit submit, it'll auto-populate this Google Doc with the information that you typed in. So I clicked Mr. Cook. I put in the date. This is the class period observed. This was my focus topic that inserted there. These are my notes. Next steps, this was already filled in. And then this was the goals that it input there. So let me show you what that looks like here. So I'm on here. So let me type in, we'll do today's date. We'll do Mr. Thompson this time. Class period observed, we'll say 4th. We're just guessing. Teacher did X, Y, Z. Oops. Goals are blah, blah, blah. Okay, hit submit. And that's done. So when I go to my, I don't know. Yep, there it is. When I go to my Google Drive, in the folder that I've already pre-selected, Mr. Thompson's notes are automatically populated. So that's everything that I just typed in, and it's already there. So you can also, depending on the folder, you can also pre-share those folders with your admin or whoever you need to share them with so that they'll automatically have copies of it and it won't clog up their inbox. So the way that we're doing this is with an add-on for Google Forms called Form Publisher. So to get an add-on, you'll have to go here and you do add-ons and you just search Form Publisher. You'll go ahead and add it. And once it's added, then we'll go through these steps. So what I am going to do is I'm going to take the add-on off and we'll start fresh. Sorry about that. I couldn't figure out how to get it to go away. So anyways, I've removed it. So now I'm going to add it again. So all I did was click on the add-ons, search Form Publisher, and it is free. So I'm going to add it back now. And it's working. Okay, got it. All right, so to get this going, we are, let's see, let me move my face for you. Okay, so Form Publisher. So I decided to create my own Google Doc to have all the fields put in those nice little tables like I wanted them to. And of course, you can create anything you want there. So the options are limitless there. You can also skip that whole step and just let Form Publisher create one for you. Now that's going to be a lot more basic, and of course it's not going to have your schools, like if you wanted to use your school colors or the header, you know, it won't have any of those things. So you can do a pre-formatted template here, or you can select a template. So I'm going to select a template. So you'll need to make your template before you do this Form Publisher part. So mine's going to pull, let me see. Oh, no, that's not what I want. Let's see, observation notes. I labeled it template here. So anytime you're making templates, just a tip here, see how I have template in all caps there. That's how I know that's the right one. Okay, so it is pulling that, and so it says 6 matching markers. So what you've got to do in your template is you've got to put in those markers, and all the markers are your questions. So let me show you what my template looks like. Here's my template. So I have teacher name, and I chose to do that in red font because when it comes out, I want it to be in red font still. And it has the little tag icons there. So you're going to put these around any of the form names. So I have date, class period, focus topic, notes, goals. Those are the same. They match. Whoops, they match these questions here. So you'll need to make sure that they have those the little tag things around it and that they match exactly. So you can't do class period observed and then in your template say class period. You've got to have it exactly the same. And it'll tell you, like when you're going through this, it'll say 4 matching markers, 2 unmatched markers or something. Like it'll let you know if it's not matching up. And it'll also separate by comma. So if you're doing Mrs. Morris, when you're selecting them, if you're doing Mrs. Morris and Mr. Thompson together, it will separate them by a comma in your Google Doc. It'll separate them for you. Same thing with focus topic. So if you're looking at, if you in your form are selecting formative assessment and student engagement, which I know those are kind of odd to put together, but if you're doing those two at the same time, it'll separate them by a comma. So it recognizes that you can have more than one topic. We'll do next. And here's where you've got some options here. Choosing your destination folder. So Form Publisher will automatically create its own folder without you having to do anything, and it will default to that one. But you can change that destination folder. So remember I said if you wanted to pre-share that folder with your administrator or whomever is going to be checking behind you, you can go ahead and set up a folder and share it that way. So that way it's not going to clog up their email, it's not going to go there, but when they need it, they can find it. So you can choose a destination folder. So if I click on that, it'll pull up my drive and you can select it like you did before. Okay, the next is the title. Whoops. So for the title, this is obviously going to be the title of the Google Doc that you've done. So I want it to say observation notes, but then I want it to say the teacher's name and the date. So if I look at the title here, it says Observation Notes, Mr. Cook, 6/26/19. Here the title is Observation Notes, Mr. Thompson. So it changes based on what I'm filling out in the Google form. So again, when you're referencing those markers, you need to have these little tag icons there. And response spreadsheet, keep file URL. So just like usual, and I'll show you what this looks like. In the response spreadsheet, so when you go to responses here, you can export this in a Google Sheet. And if you check keep file URL, which I would recommend, it automatically puts the docs URL here. File URL will put that link into the Google Sheet so that you can just find it from there. So not necessary, but it just makes things a little bit easier. Keep PDF copy in Drive. So this means that you have a copy and it can send a copy. So that brings us to adding a recipient. So to add a recipient, if you need, every time you fill one of these out, if your principal needs an emailed copy of it, you would put their name here. Now, if you're wanting to send a copy of this to the teacher that you're observing, you're going to have to use a different tool called Autocrat, which is a little more complex, but I'll give you videos and directions how to use it in the session handout. So I'm not going to go through it here, but it'll be in the handout. It can do a lot more, so it's a lot more robust, which means it's a little bit more complicated. But once you have it set up, it's set it and forget it, and you don't have to worry about it. So here you can add a recipient. You can have whomever you want to receive each copy. And you can even personalize the email notification. So you could go ahead and pre-type, and this is the same in Autocrat, pre-type, here's notes from my observation today. I had a great day. Thank you for letting me spend time with you. Whatever you want to pre-populate in there. And then you just hit next. And it should be ready. And so then you can just try form. So what's nice about it too is that you can do more than these at once. So if you can submit another response right away. So what you can do, if you need to, put in several at a time and you just crank them out, and then it'll automatically make these fancy little note sheets. So that's with Form Publisher. And again, all of these steps will be in your session handout. So make sure you check this out if you need them. Okay, meeting notes. So meeting notes are another one of those things that that can get us hung up because they can be so tedious. So what we did for the meeting notes, let me get my notes linked. I did the same thing with the Form Publisher, but I actually used Autocrat instead. These two tools are very similar, but Autocrat is a more robust, like a beefed up version of Form Publisher. So you've got some limitations with your Form Publisher in comparison to Autocrat. It's almost like PowerPoint versus Google Slides. They basically do the same thing, but PowerPoint has a whole lot more options when you need to get into the nitty-gritty of something than Google Slides does, but Google Slides sometimes is just easier to use. So I'm linking a video and some notes on how to use Autocrat if that's the direction you need to go. But you can get away with just using Form Publisher too. It just depends on what your needs are. So I'm not going to go through all of those steps again because they're basically the same as the observation form that we just did. But what I want to share with you with the meeting minutes is we had a Google Doc that was called the Hub. And my principal set this up as a Google Doc that was shared with everybody. Everybody in the school could view it, and only a few of us had access to editing it. So this Hub, this Google Doc that everyone had access to, had all of the links to everything that you would need. So if there were like baseball schedules on there, there's the McKinney-Vito Act that we needed to read at the beginning of the year. There, anything you could think of that you need to access is going to be on the Hub. And this was also one of those things. So we had, each team had to submit meeting minutes, and we needed a way that the admin could have a copy and the team could have a copy without us actually making copies and sharing them each time. So what the teams would do is they would go to the hub, click on their team meeting minutes, and they would fill out the form similar to the observation form. And when they submitted it, it would automatically email the team a copy, and it would automatically add to the principal's folder. So it didn't clog up their email. It just went directly into the folder. So I've got directions for this in the handout, but I will show you what the meeting minutes look like. And so I'll do that now. So here we are with the weekly team meeting minutes template. So like I said before, I used an add-on called Autocrat, and that's actually an add-on for Google Sheets. So if you remember before with the observation form, we used a Google Form add-on, Form Publisher, and Autocrat is actually an add-on for Google Sheets. So there's a little bit of a difference there, but again, all of that stuff will be laid out for you in your session handouts. So I wanted to show you the meeting minutes template. So in here we have all of our tags. So our team meeting minutes, they included the teachers that were there, and this part, when it lists out the teachers, they'll be separated by a comma. And they also needed to know the number of grades that were input for the week. So the teachers would type that in here. The website checkoff, they're supposed to update their website weekly. Students for pullback day, this is a remediation time. So that's just a list of students that were being pulled back, a list of attendance concerns, parent contacts, notes, etc. So this is what the template looks like. And this again is just a blank Google Doc. So you can create this to look however you want it to. So that is up to you. Now here's what the form looks like. So first they would have to input the date, and then it takes us to, like, you could click several of these and you could click all of these, and they'll just be separated with a comma in the finished version. And then you just fill this out just like you do the others, and submit here. So I want to show you what a completed version looks like, and this one was actually completed by a team. So I did black out some things for confidentiality, but here there was a list of team members present. They were separated by a comma, and so here it just has their numbers. But in this part with the pullback day, there were some teachers that just put in the link, so they had their own Google Sheet for that, or a Google Doc for it, so they just put that link in there, so that was fine. And that link did hold when it exported it to this PDF. So this was created just like before, just by inputting the data in the Google form. And this PDF was sent, the way we had it set up, it was sent to a folder in our admin drive, and it was also emailed to the team leader. So it didn't go to everybody's email, it just went to the team leader, and they're the ones who filled it out. So whoever filled it out is who received the email, and that we could set up through Autocrat. So this is just a super simple way to keep all of this stuff nice and organized. And the last thing that I want to share with you is a Screencasting Tools comparison chart that has some hyperlinks in it. So as you probably know, screencasting has been trending lately. It's a really great way for you to help your teachers, and it's also a great way for teachers to help their students. So screencasting has like a limitless amount of ways that you can use it in professional learning and in the classroom. So I know screencasting tools can be overwhelming, like how do I pick which one if you just have no idea where to start. Go to this comparison chart, and it's a live chart, so anytime I make changes, you'll have the updated version because it's in a Google Doc. So I have the tool, and I have the price, if there is a price. I have the device that it's best used on, and then just some notes that I feel like are going to be helpful for you. So again, go to that chart and check it out. And let's see. That is it. So I want to give you a big thank you for joining my session, and I hope that you were able to take away some strategies to help you, to help your productivity and help you become really efficient, because I know you have a really important job, because when the teachers stop learning, so do the students. So I'm really, really thankful that you came to my session. Your call to action, what I need you to do is make sure you download the session handout so that you have all of your step-by-step guides, especially if you won't have access to this presentation later. Make sure you download those session handouts so that you can go back to those steps, because I know we went through very quickly today and needed to stay in the time limit. So even if you don't download the session handouts, if you need to contact me, I have my email listed there, sarahmillertechnology@gmail.com. You can also use the Coaching Summit Facebook group, and then I have a website that you can also reach me at too. So bye. I really appreciate you joining me today. Have a great one.